Okay, so how's everybody doing? So we got the evolution of the island here, and as you can see, it's built like a component, so it's an actual separate diorama on the layout. And it's so much nicer. I can pull it down, put it on the bench, I can paint and scenic, all this, you know. And the reason why is because when you have higher bench work, like I have my bench quite high, I believe it's 57 inches from the floor. So it's like kind of chest height, like, yeah, I'd say chest are below my shoulders. And it's an excellent, like for me, I love viewing the layout that way. It feels like I'm like right there. And you see the trains at the level that you normally see trains. And I don't know, it's just a really cool viewpoint. You know, you're not always sort of hovering like a drone over your layout or like an eagle flying over the scene, right? And I know that people like that style, but have you tried the higher bench work? That's the question. Okay, so we're pretty much getting close to the final phases here. This is a lot of fun, this part. I'm really pleased with the way this foam turned out. That's just foam with gray paint on it, that's it. Like I haven't put a wash on it yet or anything. I put in all this riprap and gravel and sand, and like here's some real rock right here. Like all the rest of this is foam. But here's like in and around here all this little rock, which I haven't painted, which you don't really need to, but I find it looks really good. You can hardly tell the difference. Oh, there's a couple of pieces of real stones right there, but it's all sifted sand and gravel from outside. So I find it to be the best in terms of the variation of texture and stuff. So I also used the static grass applicator to lay in this 4 mil here. Just spread a little bit of glue around randomly and then just ran the static grass over it. I find if you use 3 or 4 different sizes, like randomly, looks kind of good. That's again up to the individual, but and then this 12 mil, I'm just gonna start putting some in by hand, some taller field grass, just with this pinch and stab method, right, where you take some in your hand like this. And then just stab in, down in, and then let go. And then you can kind of flare it out a bit if you want. Just takes a few times, a bit of practice. I noticed that the more you practice, I mean, I think it's for anyone. I mean, even myself, because looking at this little island diorama piece that goes in the layout, you can see where I first did this rock work down here. It's a little more softer, but I like the way this turned out. But it's the same with trees as well. Like the more you build, like the better you get at it. Like they change from batch to batch. Like these are, I did 4 or 5 of these little guys here, and I quite like them. I just used a lighter gauge wire, that's all. Like a piece of stem wire, and then 28 gauge winded, the same loop system. And then I just put 12 mil on here, painted them, and then just flocked it with the super fine weeds foam from Woodland Scenics, and they turned out pretty good, you know. So, you know, I'll probably add a few trees along here, back here. Not sure yet what I'm going to do at the back. I might put a little farmhouse up here, or kind of, you know, up on the hill, sort of in the background. Yeah, a little weathered yellow farmhouse just to give it a little hint of color there. But yeah, looking like I'm getting this area done now, which feels really good because it was, you know, just this bookended kind of face on there. And I had confidence that eventually I would figure it out, but I didn't know up until just a short while ago how I would do it or go about it. But that's the fun part of evolving layout terrain is if you just be patient, work on something else, come back, take a look at it, eventually an idea will manifest, and you know, you just build it in, and I really like it. I just love the way it's turned out. So okay. Okay, so I'm going to put the final wash on this rock work here. So like I say, this is Tamiya and or Vallejo, it doesn't matter, brush paint with Vallejo or golden or spray with Tamiya. Sometimes I'll spray just a bit of highlight before I put a wash on. So I mix this wash up with a bit of Prussian blue, black and white oil. And I just take some thinner. In this case, it's odorless mineral spirits, which I like to use for oil. And then I just take some of this, it's sort of a blue-gray, and just put some on. And then just add thinner to it, just so it runs into a lot of the cracks and engraving on the rock and puts a little bit of shadow there. It's a bit of a cooler, the bluish gray. You can use umber gray if you want for a warmer shade. But I decided there's a lot of warm colors going on here as it is, so I just choose to go with this more cooler gray to represent more of a kind of a granite look. And this will pretty much finish up this rock work. If I put too much on there, then I just slather on some thinner and that'll fix things up. The beauty of oils, it's already transparent, as I've mentioned before, so you really can't go wrong with it. Just put it on, throw on some mineral spirits, let it run into things, leave some behind that you like. Sometimes it'll run down the rock in a way that looks really good, so you want to leave that. And if you're using mineral spirits, it's going to dry in a couple of days for you, so sort of neutralizes the oil. Okay. Okay, barbed wire fence. So I want to show you how I'm going to make this barbed wire fence, which is one of many ways to do it, but this is one method that I like to use if it's not going to be exposed to reaching in. And because it's not the strongest way to do it, you'd probably be better off using brass, but then it depends on your substrate. So this is all foam. There's no plaster here. A few pieces of real rock, but that's it. But all this is foam, sculpted, as most of you know. So, and then there's a 1/8 layer of fast mash on here, or cell clay, okay, which is a little bit stiff to push through, but you can push through with an awl like this. Okay, so what I start with is I get a package of this 221 3/64 rod, which is about 3.5 inch post or whatever, give or take. Okay, it's enough that it stands out. If you get smaller than that, it gets to be really fiddly. So this is a good compromise. All right, 0.47 diameter, number 221. And then I use this 1/8 tube, but I just cut a small piece for a spacer. But you'll use this for other projects anyway, okay? So number 224. So that's what you need, 224 and 221, okay? And then what I do is I take the 3/64 rod and I take a razor saw, which you can get at any hobby shop, and they last you decades. And then just lay this on a piece of plywood or on your bench and scribe the plastic. Long strokes, rotating in your hand until you put a fine texture on the rod, okay? And then what I do is I just paint it gray. Any color gray will work. In this case, I just use gray blue, number 71.103 by Vallejo. Just with a regular brush, paint it gray. And even if you don't cover it completely with white showing through, leave it, okay? Because it'll just be like light. on the post after you put a dark wash on it. Okay, so when I'm done with that graze dry within 5 minutes, I just put a wash of burnt umber, number 71.040. You can use dark brown. Okay, and it looks like that. You get some random, see that? It's just random colored, weathered wooden barbed wire posts. Okay, so I've decided that I'm going to have my posts 4.5 feet. I think that's 54 inches or something, or 51 inches, whatever. Yeah, 54. 4.5 feet. So I cut this with my HO scale ruler to 4.5 feet. Okay. And it fits over top of the post like that. Okay. Now I'm going to space my posts out every 10 feet. I'm going to run it along this ridge here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is take my ruler, HO scale, and I'm going to take my little awl, and I want to put this post, well, let's see, 10 feet is right about here. So I'm going to push that through, give it a little wiggle like that, just enough so that it'll be a nice tight fit for my post. Okay. And what I'm going to do is take a little bit of matte medium. Okay, this is what I use for all my scenery cement. Everything that you see here, all of it is just this. That's it. Matte medium, one go-to product, water soluble, safe, no odor, bulletproof, flexible, designed to last decades upon decades and decades without cracking or drying out. Okay, you can mix it with any kind of paint. So most of you know why I use this. Okay, now I'm going to pull this out of there, and I'm going to take just this post, this long full length. I'm going to put a dab of straight matte medium on there, and don't worry about it if it's blobbed on, because you're not going to see it anyway, because it's going to disappear on you once it dries. So I'm going to push this post in, just shove it in about 1/4 inch like that. Okay, now I'm going to take this spacer and I'm going to slide it over the top down like this. Okay, I'm going to take my nippers. You can use these kind of nippers, or you can use these kind of nippers, and just nip off the top. Pull your spacer off, and there's your pole at 4.5 feet high. Okay, so I'm just going to do that all the way down, randomly, right, jogging back and forth along this ridge. And then when I'm done, I'll show you what I'm doing. I'm going to take some thread, some really thin dark brown thread. I'm just going to CA one there, and I'm going to pull it, CA there, CA there. I'll do three or four lines. It's up to you. And that's how you do it. And then you come back with your paintbrush, okay, with some of that red, brown, or dark brown, and just touch the top where the white is, where you cut it off. And then you can take some rust paint, just a wash of rust paint, and just run it along that thread, and you're done. And it looks as good as any barbed wire fence for HO scale, even an O scale as well, end or N scale, or even 1/35th. If you want to use photo etch, barbed wire, and a larger diameter post, it's up to you. Okay. Yeah, okay, so the barbed wire, as you can see, is just this thread, and all I do is I loop it on like this. It's kind of fiddly work, but looks kind of cool though. Loop it like that. And then what I do is I take a little bit of matte medium with a small little brush. Matte medium, once again, right? You just put it like a dab on like this, and it grabs really good. And then I just use the next one to hold it tight. It's impossible to film this without getting your fingers in the way, sorry. Like that. The matte medium will just completely disappear and shrink away. There won't be any white blob that you'll see, which is what I love about it. It's the best scenery cement there is in my experience anyway. I know people use other PVA, whatever, and that's fine. I'm not going to use PVA if I have matte medium sitting here. Why would I? You use it for everything. One stop adhesive pretty much. It's just a bottle always within reach, and it's usually what's within reach anyway. That's the way I am. If there's 3 gray paints and the one I want is too far out of reach, I'm going to take the next one closest to me. I'll tint it. I don't care even. I just don't bother. It's just, it's all about efficiency, like economy of scale for me. And, when you've been doing this kind of thing so long, it's not always an ideal situation.